lot of weapons and money and officers to Syria and to Egypt in order they will defeat Israel. And so you see that people around you start hating you maybe even more, at least anti-Semites. But they start respecting you, because power is something respected in Soviet Union. And for them, for those who hate you and those who love you, you are connected to Israel. And then you want to find out what this connection means. And in the underground, we start learning about the history from the books that we were getting from the tourists, Jewish tourists who were coming from abroad. We learned the ancient history and the modern history of Israel, and suddenly you discover that there is such a unique, great history, tradition, and people all over the world who feel that they are your family, and you have the state of Israel, and that will give you.
And your inner feeling, describing what you're describing now, is that you get free. You got free. You got freed from this.
I'll tell you the moment when I became free. I like all Soviet people, I had a double life. Because you understand very quickly that there is no freedom in the country. And you have all the time to lie, to say things that you don't believe. In fact, I'll tell you exactly the story when I became loyal Soviet citizen. I was 5 years old. Stalin died. You know who was Stalin?
Yes.
The biggest dictator.
I'm not sure they know.
Stalin was the dictator and the leader of the Soviet Union. My father explains to me, and I am 5 years old, that Stalin died, that we Jews are saved because he killed a lot of people and he was going to kill or to exile us to Siberia. So I should remember all my life that a miracle happened. Stalin died, but I should not tell it to anybody. I should do what everyone does. I go to kindergarten, I cry with all the children, I sing with all the children songs about great son of all the people, Stalin. And I know that miracle happened, I should be happy Stalin died.
So 5 years old, your father teaches you that.
That is typical state of mind of loyal Soviet citizen. When I stopped being Soviet slave, when finally I had enough strength to say, I don't want to live in this country, I want to go to Israel. From this moment, they could search me, they could arrest me.
You become an enemy of the regime.
Yeah, I become an enemy of the regime, but I become free person. I say things that I really believe in. And they do things in which I really believe.
But then, you know, when your activity between finding about your identity and getting into prison, those years, you were not only a Jewish dissident, you were an activist for universal human rights, for people who are not Jewish. How can you combine?
Well, first of all, yes, I'm very proud that I was at the same time the unofficial spokesman of Soviet Jewish Zionist movement and of the human rights movement in the Soviet Union. In fact, my great teacher and friend, I would say my rabbi, but he was not Jewish, was Andrei Sakharov, the greatest Soviet scientist who also became the leader of the struggle for human rights in the Soviet Union. And I have to say that then, in those days, there were people from both sides, my colleagues,
attacked you,
who were criticizing.
Yes.
There were people, some Zionists, some people from Israel, who were saying that it is wrong to, if you are struggling for the right of Jews to live, you have to stop dealing with the question of human rights. And there were people on the other side who were saying, you have to choose. You cannot believe in universal principles of human rights and at the same time to be nationalist. And so they were pushing me to make a choice between universal principles and national principles. And I always felt that it is absolutely wrong, that all my strength to fight for freedom of the people, to fight for justice, not to be afraid, to understand that physical survival is not the biggest value. It all comes from my identity, from the fact that I discovered my roots, that I discovered my people, that I discovered my history, that I feel this solidarity of my people, that I have Israel as my aim. That's what gives me strength to fight for the freedom of all the people. And that's something also very important to understand today. When young Jews on the campuses, and I saw it many times, I was on 70 campuses in the last years, when I see how young Jews tried to be convinced they have to choose. Or you're a person of the world, of human rights, or you're Jewish nationals. Or you're loyal to humanity, or you're loyal to Israel. It's absolutely false choice. If you want to be strong enough to fight for the justice of the world, you have to be strengthened by your identity, by your Jewish pride, by feeling of connection to your people and to your country.
Yeah, I thought. This is what I thought, that this is not only a theoretical or ideological point. For many people sitting here, I think, I'm not sure, that it's a real inner discussion. The need to choose, let's say, staying there and, you know, being connected with universal values such as equity or liberty, or getting connected with your Jewish identity. And you say a thing that sounds not too easy for me. You make it sound easy, but it doesn't sound so easy to me to combine these two as a young adult. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I remember once when I decided that I have to spend a lot of time on the campuses. Some few years ago, when it became clear that on the American campuses are turning more and more to the center of new anti-Semitism, attacks on Israel, I started touring the campuses and talking to Jewish students, non-Jewish students, speaking about human rights, justice, and so on. And I remember the first campus, the first student, Jewish student, who asked me the first question was really striking. He said to me, as a liberal Jew who believes in justice for everybody, I really feel that it would be better for me to live in the world where Israel doesn't exist. And I was shocked, because remembering how the very fact of existence of the state of Israel, that what saved us, that what gave us strength to fight against this most awful dictatorship. And we started talking. First of all, I reminded him that he can ask his parents how the world looked when Israel didn't exist. And second, the example of all those Jews. There were generations and generations of Jews, including our fathers and grandfathers in the Soviet Union, who decided to abandon their tribe, their Jewishness, in order to work for the better ideals of the world. Communism. What was communism? Why so many Jews joined communism? They decided, finally, we don't have to be people of the ghetto, people of shtetl. We can work for the justice of all the world. And then when they became people who have absolutely no roots in anything, when this regime turned against them, they had no strength. In fact, they helped to create one of the most awful regimes in the world. If you look what happens with Jews who are abandoning their roots, abandoning their connection with their, like many other people who are abandoning their identity, they're becoming decadent, because then really the only value in their life is physical success and physical survival.
Let me take you one step further,
yeah,
and not make life so easy.
Okay.
Okay. I guess that one of your biggest challenges as the chairman of the agency, the Jewish Sukhut, is fighting for Jewish identity. Yeah. Is that right?
That's right.
We're talking about mixed marriage and about assimilation and Jewish identity. So, let's say I'm an 18-year-old Jew from the States, and I'm asking you whether it is better, more important for me to stay in the States and to fight for Jewish identity inside my community, or to come to Israel and be one of the 6-7 millions, you know? One more. What is better?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, we are now the biggest Jewish community, so it's true that it is one of the almost 6 million.
Maybe they are more needed over there.
But we still are not only 43%. So if you're one of the Jews of diaspora, you're also one of many Jews of diaspora. Second, I believe personally that the place where the future of Jewish people is defined is Israel. And that's why Israel is important for everybody. Having said that, and that's why I personally enjoy every day of life in Israel, and I'm glad about every Jew who made the decision to join us. At the same time, I believe it is a very personal decision. And I don't believe in the slogans that everybody has to live in Israel. So for those who choose for themselves to live in diaspora, I think it is my interest and their interest